what they wanted to understand was, would the product remain in place for the period of time, especially 8519, obviously, where it's the survival time of the cable, which is your time. So you actually have a time with that standard. And that was the idea, was to go and do the test, and then be able to say to our customers, here's a demonstration performance to say our product will withstand fire for whatever time it was. Now, we were aiming for obviously 90 minutes.
Hello and welcome to another CEF Tech Talking podcast. Dave, we're in for a right show today, mate. We've had
Legrand show.
the Legrand show, yeah. So we are joined by Legrand, and we're talking. What we're talking about today? We're talking about all the cable management side of things.
All our wonderful products, yeah.
Yeah, which you've got quite a lot of.
We've got a few.
And we've only got 15 minutes.
That's okay. We'll keep it brief. We'll keep it brief and to the point.
So we're looking very much this CEF Tech Talking podcast to learn about Legrand, all the stuff that they're doing, and they've got some great solutions which me and you are going to find out about.
Yeah. And first off, let's find out who we're talking to.
Hi there, so I'm Mark Williams. I'm the lead marketing manager for Legrand's cable management division. So in my stable of products, hopefully our wonderful customers have heard of, but Swift cable trays and ladders, Salamander trunking, cable fill wire mesh, so they all can under my responsibility. They are my babies,
for
that's
you
right.
to look at.
And
I'm Paul Martin. I'm a business development manager for the Legrand Cable Management business unit, and I look after all the products Mark's mentioned, but I'm sort of lead for our Easy Path fast stopping product, and I lead on data centres.
Oh, do you? Because data centres is one of the big areas, really. I remember when I used to be on the tools. I know we're going back a bit here, Dave. But when I was on the tools,
quite a bit.
I used to do all the basket and all the tray and all the trunking, get dirty.
You were the basket case, really?
Yeah, and the data guys used to come in and fill it. I suppose they do their own stuff now, don't they?
Yeah.
So that's what they used to do. But you guys have really looked at this, because, I mean, I'm going back now to the end of the 90s. I used to do a lot of cable tray and stuff like that. There weren't many different types around.
No, I think where we've looked at in our product roadmaps is really looking at the sort of the installer, basically, and looking to improve the products around installation times, safety. So the message that we go to market with for our cable management products is the faster by design message. So
Faster by design.
Right. So we're building in time-saving solutions into our products. So Salamander trunking, for example, has been independently tested and shown to be 50% faster to install than likewise products. Similarly with Swift cable trays, we've tested with a company called Reassurance. And the results of the test show that our products are, considerably faster.
What are the features that can improve that installation time?
So things on the Salamander trunking, for example, we have integrated couplers on the product. So the lengths and the fittings are already pre-fitted with the coupler. So they come to site. They don't have to worry about locating the couplers that are already on the product. So things like snap-on lids for the trunking lengths as well. It's not the old-fashioned sort of turnbuckle twist and turn. It's snap-on and. Got one here actually for the cable fill.
We love these.
Ready to go.
Ready to go, primed and ready. This is a new cable fill product coming out. Again, the couplers are integrated onto the end of the product. So
for those that can't see this, and there are people watching on YouTube, bits and bobs, this looks like normal basket. However, on the end, you've put some quite fancy designs, haven't you?
These are the couplers, yeah. So these couplers are pre-fitted, if you like. They're welded onto the product.
So they will just interlock with the next piece.
Yeah, so I've got the other sort of side.
Okay.
Hopefully gets this right first time, but basically just latches on. Into that and then snaps in.
Oh wow!
And that's how quick
solid,
it is. So,
isn't it? Yeah. So again, if you're listening, we just joined two pieces of basket together there in a click. Yeah, nice.
And we'll have some nice videos coming out to show sort of the time saving. Versus traditional methods, which whether it be a nut and bolt type
6mm nut and bolt, that would have been
6mm
roofing nut and bolt would have gone through there to join them again with the little coupler that you would have supplied in the past, I suppose.
And just looking at from your point of view, is that a cheaper option because we're not having to add in all these bits and bobs, or is it more expensive to manufacture?
The price is competitive versus traditional basket and couplers. So really what the installer saves is the installation time. So when you've got long runs of products, long corridors, etc. Coupling these together, the time saving is considerable. So as I come back to my original point, the faster by design message, it's all about saving the contractor, the installer, precious installation time. And we also reflect that, particularly with Salamander and Swifts. So our installation rates are covered by look-ins.
Oh,
so
great.
when the contractor's doing his tender or producing his tender, you can
so
look
the
at
lock-ins, Dave, for those of you that don't
I'm not
know.
familiar with that
Right,
phrase.
so when I used to sit as an estimator and I used to have to go through and I was pricing the job off of spec, so I'd get the drawings and bits and bobs, I'd go into lock-ins, and lock-ins is where you find a price for everything. And you're suggesting now that the timings are in there as well for
the
this.
timings for our trunking and our trays are reflected in our installation rates that are
Great.
put against our products, obviously. So it makes contractors tendering with our products, hopefully, that more competitive as well.
It will do, yeah, because
on the
that's where the
installation.
big saving will be on the time, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
So a socket's a socket, a light is a light. But when it comes to this, if they can save time putting on this on the first, now you're suggesting a lot of this is for data, aren't you? This stuff.
So for wire mesh baskets, so Cabler fill, the big market is really data cabling. So sell a lot into data centers, into IT rooms, etc.
Yeah.
Obviously, in part of the design. Encompasses sort of the safety of the cable and the installer as well. So you'll run your hand across the top of that. It's very, very smooth.
Yeah.
So this is our sort of, it's very identifiable. It's our safety edge. So it has this little kink here. So that just makes sure that the cable is protected when they're laying the cable. So it's all our products try and include safety features. So on the Salamander trunking, for example, we're working with sheet steel at the end of the day. So on the return flange of the trunking, you'll have a nice Dutch fold, we call it. So it protects
so it's not
the
sharp.
No,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
What was the term you guys used earlier on before we hit the record button? Your metal munchers, is that
Where
right?
I think it was metal bashers.
Metal bashers, yeah.
I like metal munches.
But munchers is
Ring to it. Yeah.
There's a bit more to it than that, obviously. We're doing our colleagues in R&D and
Oh,
a
without a doubt,
massive
yeah.
disservice.
There's a lot that goes into
yeah.
it. We've been lucky enough, Dave and I, to visit some factories, and it is proper engineering, isn't it? And whereabouts is the engineering done for this? You mentioned some tests are done in Germany to a German standard, but where's the other stuff done?
Yeah, we'll come on to that. But in terms of the majority of the products that we market in the UK for Legrand, Swift's tray and ladders and trunking are all made in the UK. So all the design is done out of the UK.
never knew that.
We've got factories in Scarborough.
Oh,
So it's
right.
not just
that's great.
it's not just Seaside and
it's
rock
not,
and
no.
fish and chips. It's Swift and Salamander comes out of the wonderful town of Scarborough as well.
No, you've mentioned that is obviously for data cables, but the support also for cables in terms of fire and premature collapse. You're big on that as well. Let's talk about that for a bit.
So I don't know if Paul wants to jump in and discuss a bit what we've done in terms of fire, because it's a very, I'm going to say it, a hot topic. And
He's here all week, folks.
it's a question we're continually being asked, and
Well,
it's
as
a
an
massive
industry,
subject.
we've been
Yeah.
asked it now for the last sort of 6-7 years, haven't we, really?
Yeah. I mean, we're just by post the corrigendum, so we're now looking at protected escape routes again and thinking about all that issue. So where are we, Paul, with all this?
okay. So the issue of fire-rated containment, the issue of containment premature collapse, goes back quite a long way, really, probably 20 years to the fire in Stevenage. The introduction of BS 8519 in 2010, which was about the supporting circuit integrity cables so they didn't prematurely collapse, invented for fire. In the same year we saw another fire in Southampton, which involved premature collapse and the use of non-metallic product to support it. So we saw the Amendment 3, I think it was in the 17th edition, which talked about supporting cables in escape routes, so they didn't prematurely collapse.
That term, those like.
So that came in, and then in the 18th edition, we saw that expanded across the entire building because all rooms could
Potentially escape routes.
But again, the term premature collapse really caused some confusion because it didn't actually define what was meant by premature collapse. It still doesn't, right? So 859 was updated in 2020, and really both give you a methodology or give you a way to meet the standard. So the 7671 says the use of metallic products.
Yes, it does.
Will allow you to meet the regulation, which is 521, isn't it? And then 8519 gives you a methodology to follow, so you can calculate the size of the drop rods to ensure that they don't weaken prematurely and the cable wiring system is capable in place. But people were coming to us wanting proof, asking if we had fire-rated products, how long would it last, etc. And most people are very surprised to find that none of the standards that we manufacture to include any fire testing or at all.
And then that isn't because you don't do it, it's just because they're not required.
They're not required. They don't required. And then, in fact, if you then go and look throughout Europe, there is no requirement to test any product in Europe.
Yeah.
The cable tray standard or the cable tray and ladder is 61537, and you know it's a worldwide standard, and there is no requirement in that standard to.
And I think that's
to
probably
test for
because
fire, so.
it's metal. We know it's metal.
Yeah,
we know it's not. It's
so we know.
It's not going to burn, really, is it?
So we know that it's S1 rated or A1 rated. A1 rated means it's non-combustible, won't contribute towards fire, the same as other metallic products.
Yeah.
If we look at construction products, which cable management and supports currently aren't part of, but of course cable is. However, people, are very concerned, being asked to produce proof by main contractors, by consultants, by architects. And so we were aware of a standard which Capital have been tested to, which is a German cable standard for circuit integrity cable, and it's a system test in reality, isn't it, Mark? Where the cable is installed into a furnace on a cable management system, or it can be clipped, I think, to the surface. But majority of the time, it's put in on a ladder or a tray, and then it's taken over a 90-minute period up to 1,000 degrees C, which is the ISO fire curve, which represents best the commercial buildings that it's most likely to be installed into. And it's to ensure the cable maintains circuit integrity over that period of time.
You voluntarily put your stuff through this test, haven't you? You didn't have to do it, but you.
No, I mean,
we felt that having listened to our customers, for them it was really important to have this information, and it's really
you'd want it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it really does. For the principles of the test, and what they wanted to understand was, would the product remain in place for the period of time, especially 8519, obviously, where it's the survival time of the cable, which is your time. So you actually have a time with that standard. And that was the idea, was to go and do the test, and then be able to say to our customers, here's a demonstration performance to say our product will withstand fire for whatever time it was. Now, we were aiming for obviously 90 minutes.
I know that BRE produced a report probably 7-8 years ago now that looked at red rule plugs, or any manufacturer of rule plug, but they were looking at rule plugs that could be inserted, and do they meet the requirement as well? Because this stuff that you're providing here, absolute superb, but how it's installed was
up on the wall.
The next factor. Yeah. And again, they come up with some figures that were quite concerning, but when you actually went into the detail, it looked at actually that rule plug or that plastic secure fixing, that was surrounded by a thermal mass, which would have been the breeze block or the concrete slab or whatever. For that to actually get to a temperature where that piece of plastic would fail would mean that the building's about to come down. So actually, we'll pass it. So these types of rule plugs and stuff like that were allowed, again, to be used. But you guys have started to do all the tests, because, again, from a contractor's point of view, to hear you say this, Paul, is wonderful. But they're going to want a bit of paper, aren't they?
Exactly, yeah. We've tested. And what's interesting, again, is we've looked throughout the world. And in Australia, for instance, they have 2-hour fire test for containment, but the fixings aren't part of the test. The German standard doesn't include the fixings. So nowhere in the world where you test for fire is the fixings part of the test, which is quite bizarre, isn't it? Because we would have thought that's the weakest part.
Since you've had this test data available, have you noticed an increase in sales? Have you noticed an increase in interest?
It's just started to go out. So what we've noticed is people wanting to understand what this test is. Mm-hmm. So we are saying that we can declare that our product will withstand or will not premature collapse for 90 minutes.
Yep.
Clever, yeah.
And we've tested tray.
So we tested tray trunking, ladder, and Capital had previously tested anyway, because obviously we manufacture this elsewhere in the group, so this is brought in from France. But so we tested the product at the back end of last year. I was myself as sort of conducted the test. I was responsible for getting all our product over to Germany. Don't get me started on Brexit. Getting product across to Germany was a nightmare in itself. So I'd just like to thank my colleagues at Legrand Germany for helping us get the products across. But we had we had a lot of good fun over there. It's installed our products into a chamber, furnace chamber, effectively.
It's a big oven, isn't it?
It's a big oven, basically. Yeah, I mean, great fun installing the products, laying all the sort of this circuit integrity cable on there, and then they move the chamber across to a big furnace and basically set it on fire. Yeah. So they hook up all the cable.
Did you learn anything as part of that process? Did you notice something about the product which said, "Oh, we could change that, we could do this"?
Truthfully, it performed as I'd expect.
Did it?
I suppose what I was surprised about was how rigid the product was after the test.
Even still, its integrity
we
was still there.
we burnt it for an hour and a half up to 1,000 degrees, and then we had to go away for 5 or 6 hours until it cooled down. They got the fans on it. Went back in afterwards to sort of take pictures, and we put pictures of the test before and after on our declarations as well, just to give hopefully our customers a bit of reassurance and that sort of further proof, if you like. But you could literally hang off the stuff.
Yeah,
it was rigid. It was completely intact and doing what it's supposed to do. It was protecting and containing the cable.
So if your stuff's not there, there's a good chance that the building's not there either, because your stuff's going to stay around. Isn't it?
That would be your proud moment, wouldn't it? You walk back inside, the building's gone, the train.
Your stuff's still there,
floating without a building around it,
with a nice Legrand banner on it.
Yeah. It is, and as I say, we sort of expected that, because we know that there's been enough fires in the past that if containment was it would have been noted.
Well, you made a good point, actually, Paul, that often in reports the things that worked never get mentioned.
Exactly right. We always say that if you look at all the regulations we talked about, that all in hindsight, they're all
fixing a problem.
We assume that people won't put up fire-rated cable with plastic cable clips, because why would you? But people do. So therefore we have to put a regulation in place to stop it happening. So but I also understand that in the current climate, the need for reassurance and the need to be able to say I absolutely know this won't happen because I've seen it. And
it's just that third party element as well, isn't it? Someone else say your product does what it does.
Yeah, so we have the report on that from Germany. Managed to get it translated because it was in German. My German isn't great.
Google Translate's great, isn't it? I was going to France this year. I've been using it.
It's marvellous.
Not with PDFs though, unfortunately. So it was an interesting experiment that we did over there, and happy to say that our products performed as we'd expect them to, and we've produced some declarations to test.
I think the outcome was, in reality, that both the standards proved to have the right outcome. BSS 766, if you use metallic products to avoid premature, it's correct.
Paul, you've mentioned this. I'm going to do it. I'm going to mention this. Dave don't like me doing it, but I'm going to go for it. I don't know why the regs don't just simply say use metal. They go on about they've got these BSEN numbers that go on forever, and I don't know why they don't just say put steel in.
Just before we close, in terms of development, it's always going to be steel, isn't it? Because I caveat that by saying, well, with things like carbon development, what's it called, the single granular carbon, I've forgotten his word for the moment. There's a very
they've
strong
got that one where they keep putting
carbon film.
Yeah.
Maybe you could produce a product which is better than steel, but it's not going to happen, is it? You'll be making steel.
I think because the industry demands product at a price, so anything which involves high tech product will obviously be very difficult because it will not meet the budget requirements of the building, if that makes sense.
And sort of, why would you? You've got a perfectly good product that does the job.
I'm going to become a metal muncher.
I mean, we were.
You're welcome up to Scarborough to see how
I'm sticking to this, mate. This stuff's great.
You're welcome to Scarborough to see how it's munched anyway, and we'll get some fish and chips.
We'll do that. We'll definitely make a trip.
Yeah,
it's interesting to see. We've seen some of it made, and it definitely is a lot of engineering that goes into it. Knowing that this comes out of Scarborough, and knowing that you guys have got the third party test on it, which is the bit that we as contractors need. If we're going to go out for these big tenders, these big jobs, then they're going to ask questions of us to know that you guys over at Legrand have got a solution. It's been third party tested, and you've got a bit of paper you can get across to me to prove to my customer that what I'm installing is going to be sound. that's just peace of mind, and it's just sensible, isn't it?
I think also the golden thread, becoming more and more spoken about now. The new British standard is 8644, I think, which shows you have to pass digitally on information about the work and the fire rating to the end of the asset owner. Again, everybody wants lots of reassurance.
You guys have got it without a doubt, in abundance. You've got it, and we thank you very much for your time coming to tell us about this. And if you've liked what you've listened to, then you can subscribe. Obviously, you can share again with everyone. Click a like button if there's a like button to do so that me, Dave, can feel the love. Really.
It's so nice when they do, isn't it? I feel it every time.
And thank you to Mark, thank you to Paul, and thank you to Legrand
much
for coming and allowing us to talk about all this stuff. And you never just really know how much they're going to bring to these, do you? But this is another one where we thought it was going to be this big, but actually you do this much. It's enormous. Thank you, guys. We've really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
And thank you, everyone, for listening to another CEF Tech Talking podcast.